Millionaire offered her $20 million for a fake marriage. Later he begged her to stay. What happened? Before we begin this emotional story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification bell, so you never miss any of our powerful stories about love, forgiveness, and second chances. Because sometimes, the people who seem to have everything are the ones who've lost what truly matters. Today's story will leave you in tears. It's about a millionaire who offered a woman $20 million for a fake marriage. But when the truth of her heart was revealed, he realized that all the money in the world couldn't buy what she gave him freely: real love. Stay till the end, because what happens when he begs her to stay will break your heart, and then heal it again. Broken Heart Red Har. When a struggling waitress was offered $20 million to marry a cold-hearted millionaire for 1 year, she thought it was the deal that would save her family. But behind every contract hides a cost no money can cover. What happens when a fake marriage starts feeling real, and walking away hurts more than staying? Thought balloon: would you ever marry someone for money if your heart warned you not to? Comment your thoughts below. The morning sun crept over Atlanta, Georgia, washing the cracked streets in gold as Aaliyah Thompson tied her apron behind the counter of Willow Street Cafe. The smell of burnt toast, cheap coffee, and hope long gone filled the air. Aaliyah was 28, sharp-minded, warm-hearted, and bone-tired. Life had taught her how to smile even when her world was falling apart. Her mother's dialysis bills stacked higher than her tips, and her little brother Jerome still owed 2 semesters of tuition. She told herself that one day things would turn around. But one day had started feeling like a lie. The diner door chimed. In walked a man who didn't belong there. Ethan Caldwell, 35, stepped inside like he owned the morning itself: immaculate navy suit, steel blue eyes, and an expression carved from marble. Everyone turned to look, even the fry cook paused mid-flip. He sat at the counter. Alone. Coffee? Aaliyah asked, wiping her hands on her apron. Black, he said, voice low and even. She poured. Silence stretched between them, thick as syrup. Ethan finally spoke. You've worked here long? 3 years, she said. Why you hiring? He almost smiled. Almost. Maybe. He left a $100 bill for a $2 coffee and disappeared. That afternoon, while Aaliyah waited at the bus stop, a sleek black Mercedes rolled up. The tinted window slid down. Ethan sat inside. Miss Thompson, he said smoothly, I'd like to make you a business offer. She frowned. What kind of offer? The kind that will solve every problem you've ever had. They met again the next day at a private restaurant. A waiter pulled out her chair as Ethan laid a folder on the table. Inside, legal documents. Contracts. A pen. I need a wife, he said simply. Aaliyah blinked. Excuse me. Just for a year, he explained. Strictly business. No expectations beyond appearances. She laughed in disbelief. And you think I'm the woman for that job? I know you are, he said. Because you looked me in the eye yesterday and didn't flinch. Everyone else sees a name or a bank account. You saw a person. Her voice softened. And what do I get for pretending to be your wife? He met her gaze. $20 million. The words hung between them, glittering and poisonous. Aaliyah's breath hitched. 20 million. That could pay off her mother's hospital bills, send Jerome to college, give her life a do-over. But why me? She asked again. Because I need someone believable, Ethan said. My board thinks I'm too unstable to run Caldwell Enterprises after my father's death. A wife would change that. But I don't want lies or society games. I want someone real. She studied him, perfect suit, perfect jawline, and something hollow in his eyes. You're really going to pay someone to play wife? His voice dropped to a whisper. I'm not paying for love. Just peace. That night, Aaliyah couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling of her tiny apartment, counting every what-if. What if she said yes and lost herself? What if she said no and lost everything else? Her phone buzzed, a text from Jerome. Mom's treatment got delayed again. The hospital needs payment. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered into the dark, God, what am I supposed to do? By sunrise, she knew her answer. 2 days later, she walked into Ethan's penthouse. Glass walls, sweeping skyline, silence heavy with wealth. He stood waiting with his lawyer. She signed the contract with trembling hands. Ethan extended his hand. "Welcome to our arrangement, Mrs. Caldwell." Her chest tightened. "Don't call me that," she said softly. A faint smile flickered on his lips. "Fair enough, Aaliyah." She turned toward the elevator, heart pounding, but his voice stopped her. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I hope this helps you." Aaliyah looked back, eyes wet but steady. "And I hope it helps you remember what being human feels like." As the doors closed, Ethan exhaled, a long quiet breath that sounded a lot like regret. If you were in Aaliyah's shoes, desperate, cornered, offered $20 million to marry a stranger, what would you do? Could you trust someone who treats love like a business? Share your thoughts below. Backhand index pointing down. The first morning after their courthouse wedding, Aaliyah woke to the sound of silence. No laughter. No congratulations. Just the echo of her own heartbeat inside a mansion too big for comfort. Ethan Caldwell's world was made of glass and marble, flawless, cold, echoing. She walked barefoot down the hall, sunlight spilling over floors so polished they reflected her face. It felt less like home and more like a museum of a man who didn't know how to live. On the kitchen island, a folded note waited beside a steaming cup of coffee. "Meet me in the study at 8 a.m. EC." She checked the clock. 7:57. Ethan was already in the study, sleeves rolled up, tapping at his laptop. He didn't look up when she entered. "Good morning," Aaliyah said. He nodded curtly. "Morning. Have a seat." She sat, back straight, unsure if she was in a business meeting or a marriage. "I want to make sure you understand the terms of our arrangement," he began. "Our marriage will appear authentic to the public. You'll attend events, dinners, and interviews. You'll wear the ring, stay in this house, and play the role convincingly." She folded her arms. "You make it sound like a job description." "That's what it is," he said plainly. "In return, I'll ensure your family is financially secure. $20 million, paid in quarterly installments. First payment today." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was proof, a transfer receipt. $2 million. Her breath caught. "Ethan," she whispered, "this could save my mother's life." His tone softened just for a second. "Then it's already worth it." She studied him. The man was a fortress, his words measured, his eyes guarded, his emotions locked somewhere she couldn't reach. "Is this what you do with everyone?" she asked quietly. "Buy them so they can't leave?" He looked up sharply. "You signed willingly." "Because I had no choice," she said. "There's a difference." Their eyes locked, a collision of pain and pride neither expected. Later that afternoon, Ethan's mother arrived unannounced. Margaret Caldwell was everything the society pages said she was: elegant, controlled, intimidating. She walked into the living room with her diamond brooch gleaming like ice. "Ethan," she said coolly, "you might have warned me you were getting married." He stood stiffly. "Mother, this is Aaliyah." Margaret's eyes flicked over Aaliyah's skin, her thrift store blouse, her trembling hands. Then she smiled, a smile so sharp it could cut glass. "How lovely," she said. "And where did my son meet you, dear?" "At a cafe," Aaliyah answered honestly. Margaret blinked. "A cafe?" She turned to Ethan. "Of course. How modern of you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Mother, this isn't a discussion." But Margaret was already circling Aaliyah like a cat. "You must understand, dear, this family has certain expectations. Appearances matter." "I'm aware," Aaliyah said quietly. "That's why I'm here, to help your son keep his." The older woman's smile froze. For the first time, Ethan looked almost amused. When Margaret finally left, Ethan turned to Aaliyah. "You didn't have to talk to her like that." "She insulted me," Aaliyah said. "I'm not a prop." "No," Ethan said softly. "You're not." He walked away before she could see the flicker of admiration crossing his face. 2 weeks later, their first public event arrived, the Caldwell Foundation Gala. Cameras, champagne, and whispers filled the grand ballroom. Aaliyah stood by Ethan's side in a gown of deep emerald silk, a color chosen to match his tie. The world saw glamour, but she felt like she was balancing on glass. Reporters swarmed. "Ethan. Who's the lucky lady?" He tightened his hand around hers. My wife, Aaliyah. A flash of cameras. Gasps. She's stunning, one whispered. Another louder, did you two meet overseas? Aaliyah smiled, controlled, gracious, even as she heard the murmured questions. She's not from his world, is she? Ethan leaned close, his voice low. Ignore them. I'm fine, she said, but her pulse told another story. Halfway through the evening, Margaret cornered her again. Enjoying the performance? She asked, voice dripping with false sweetness. It's not a performance, Aaliyah replied. It's a contract. Margaret smirked. So you admit it. Before Aaliyah could answer, Ethan appeared, hand at her waist. Mother, if you can't be kind, please excuse us. The ballroom froze. No one had ever heard Ethan Caldwell speak to his mother that way. He led Aaliyah out to the terrace. Cool air hit their faces. Thank you, she said softly. He shook his head. You shouldn't have needed it. For a long moment, they stood under the city lights, two people bound by paper, but connected by something neither understood yet. Weeks turned into months. They learned each other's routines, habits, silences. Aaliyah filled the house with warmth, fresh flowers, music, laughter. Ethan pretended not to notice, but every night, he lingered longer near the kitchen just to hear her hum. She cooked breakfast one Saturday, flipping pancakes when he walked in. You don't have to do that, he said. I like doing it, she replied. You ever tried it yourself? He frowned. I have staff for that. She smirked. Figures. He watched her flip another pancake with effortless grace. You know, he said slowly, you're different from anyone I've ever met. Because I don't care about your money, she teased. He met her eyes. Exactly. For a heartbeat, the air between them shifted. No contracts, no rules, just two souls caught off guard. Then his phone buzzed. He stepped away, breaking the spell. A few days later, Ethan brought Aaliyah to a board meeting. You'll sit beside me, he said. It'll show stability. She nodded, nervous but composed. Inside the sleek conference room, his business partners murmured as she entered. James Holbrook, the COO, sneered. So this is the new Mrs. Caldwell. Quite the unconventional choice. Ethan's voice was steel. She's my wife. Watch your tone. James smirked. Of course. I just hope she understands what's at stake. The meeting turned tense. Numbers, projections, accusations that Ethan's emotional distractions were weakening the company. Finally, James said, You married a waitress, Ethan. The board's losing confidence. Aaliyah stood, calm but fierce. Funny, she said, because from where I'm sitting, he's the only one in this room showing any real leadership. Silence fell. Ethan looked at her, really looked, and something in him cracked open. When the meeting ended, he turned to her. You didn't have to defend me. I wanted to, she said. Someone has to remind them you're more than your father's shadow. Ethan's voice dropped. You really believe that? She smiled gently. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. That night, Ethan sat alone in his office, staring at the photo from the gala, Aaliyah's hand in his, her smile genuine. He didn't know when the line between business and emotion had blurred. All he knew was that it had. One rainy evening, Aaliyah found Ethan sitting in the dark, a glass of whiskey untouched beside him. You okay? She asked. He hesitated. You ever lose something so completely you stop believing in anything good? She sat beside him. All the time. He glanced at her. My father died last year. Heart attack. But before that, he told me I'd never be more than a failure. Said I didn't have the heart for this business. And you believed him? I still do some days. Aaliyah's voice softened. Then maybe it's time someone showed you you're wrong. He looked at her, eyes dark and searching. Why do you care? Because I've seen what it looks like when someone gives up on themselves, she said. I won't watch you do it too. For the first time he smiled, not the polite smile for cameras, but something real, fragile. And for the first time, Aaliyah realized she was in danger, not of being used, but of feeling something real. By their 5th month, gossip magazines had shifted tone. Ethan Caldwell's new bride, Heart of gold or hidden agenda? From waitress to millionaire's wife, the love story nobody saw coming. Aaliyah laughed reading them, but Ethan's expression was unreadable. They don't know you, she said. Let them talk. He nodded, but his jaw tightened. They don't know you either. And I hate that they think you're just another transaction. She placed her hand over his. Then show them I'm not. He froze. Her touch burned through every wall he'd built. One night, after a charity auction, their car broke down outside the city. Rain poured, drenching them both as they waited for help. Aaliyah laughed, shivering. Guess even billionaires can't control the weather. Ethan looked at her, mascara running, hair soaked, laughing like a child, and something in his chest cracked wide open. Why are you laughing? He asked. Because if I don't, I'll cry, she said. And you need to learn how to do one of those. He chuckled softly, then stepped closer, the rain falling between them like glass beads. Thank you, he murmured. For what? For reminding me what real feels like. Their eyes met, the world fading. He lifted her chin gently, but before their lips touched, headlights appeared, the tow truck. They both stepped back, breathless, pretending nothing had happened. But both knew something had changed forever. Can love grow from something that started as a lie? If someone showed you real kindness when you least deserved it, would you believe it, or push it away? Share your answer below, backhand index pointing down. 6 months had passed. The contract said temporary, but everything between Aaliyah and Ethan now felt dangerously permanent. She had learned his habits, how he took his coffee strong but cold, how he stared out the window before every big meeting, how he whispered his father's name when he thought no one heard. And he had learned hers, how she hummed under her breath when nervous, how she cried silently during old movies, how she touched things gently, as if afraid they'd break. But neither dared say out loud what was happening, because saying it would make it real. One night, Aaliyah woke to find the bed beside her empty. She followed faint light into the study. Ethan sat at his desk, papers scattered, head buried in his hands. Couldn't sleep again? She asked softly. He looked up, eyes tired. These numbers don't add up. Someone's leaking internal data to the competitors. Who? He sighed. James Holbrook. But I can't prove it yet. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. You will. He met her gaze. The warmth in her touch melted something inside him. You shouldn't care so much, he said quietly. This isn't your fight. She smiled sadly. It is now. Everything that hurts you, hurts me too. For a moment, neither breathed. Then he stood, his hand sliding down her arm until their fingers touched. Go back to bed, Aaliyah, he murmured, voice rough. Why? Because if you stay, I won't be able to let you go. Her breath caught. She turned slowly and left, but her heart stayed in that room with him. 2 weeks later, Ethan had a business dinner with Catherine Hall, a charming executive and his ex-girlfriend. Aaliyah knew about it. It was part of the plan, appear as a stable couple in public, but keep private lives separate. Still, when she saw the news photo online, Catherine laughing with her hand on Ethan's arm, her chest burned. When he came home that night, she was waiting. How was your dinner? She asked coolly. Productive, he said. Why? Because your productive dinner made it to the internet. She showed him the photo. You look happy. He frowned. It was business. Right, she said, voice trembling. Business. That's what everything is to you, isn't it? Ethan's eyes softened. Aaliyah. Don't, she snapped. Don't call me like that if it doesn't mean anything. The silence between them was unbearable. Finally, Ethan said quietly, it means more than you think. She stared at him, heart pounding. Then say it. He opened his mouth, but no words came. She laughed bitterly. That's what I thought. And she walked out, leaving him standing in the wreckage of his own fear. Aaliyah spent that night at her old apartment, the one she'd refused to sell even after moving into Ethan's mansion. She sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes and memories, whispering to herself, you knew what this was. Don't start dreaming now. But no amount of logic could quiet her heart. She missed his silence, his steadiness, even his coldness, because now she knew the warmth hiding beneath it. At dawn, she checked her phone. Dozens of missed calls. One text. "I'm sorry. Please come home." EC. She closed her eyes. For the first time, she didn't know if home meant a place or a person. That evening, Aaliyah returned. The sky was heavy with rain, the city lights blurring in the downpour. Ethan stood outside the mansion, soaked, waiting. "You came back," he breathed. "Because you wouldn't stop calling," she said, half smiling. He stepped closer. "You were right. About everything. I treat feelings like contracts because I'm terrified of breaking them. But you," he swallowed hard. "You make me want to risk it." She froze, tears mixing with rain. "You don't have to say that," she whispered. "I want to," he said. "Because every time you walk away, it feels like I can't breathe." Aaliyah's voice cracked. "Then why do you keep pushing me?" "Because I don't deserve you." She shook her head. "You don't get to decide that." He reached for her hand. "Then tell me what I'm supposed to do." She looked up at him, the man who once saw love as a transaction now standing in the rain, stripped of everything but truth. "Start by being honest," she said. He took a trembling breath. "I love you." The words broke from him like confession, raw and trembling. Aaliyah's tears finally fell. "Say it again." "I love you," he whispered. "Not the contract, not the idea, you." And before either could stop it, their lips met, rain-soaked, desperate, real. No cameras. No signatures. Just two broken people finally finding what neither money nor promises could buy. But happiness never comes easy. Days later, Ethan discovered leaked financial data traced directly to an account under Aaliyah's name. He stormed into the living room, eyes blazing. "What did you do?" She froze. "What are you talking about?" "Someone used your access to send internal reports to Holbrook Industries. You're the only one who could've." "Ethan, no," she cried. "I'd never." "Stop lying," he shouted. "You needed the money. Maybe 20 million wasn't enough." The words hit harder than any slap. Her eyes filled with tears. "After everything we've been through, you still think I'd sell you out?" He hesitated, just a flicker, but didn't answer. Aaliyah's voice broke. "Then you never loved me. You just loved what you thought I was." She tore off her wedding ring and dropped it on the marble floor. "You can keep your peace, Mr. Caldwell. I'm done." And she walked out, for real this time. Ethan sat in silence for hours, replaying every moment. Every smile, every touch, every promise. His mother's voice echoed in his head, "She's not one of us." But another voice, Aaliyah's, cut through, "You don't get to decide who deserves love." He buried his face in his hands. For the first time in his life, Ethan Caldwell cried. Later that night, his security chief burst in. "Sir, we found the leak. It wasn't her." Ethan looked up, stunned. "What?" It was James Holbrook. He framed her using her account credentials. "We've got the proof." Ethan's breath left him in one sharp, shattering sound. "What have I done?" he whispered. He didn't wait. He grabbed his keys and ran into the night. Rain poured again as he drove across the city. He went to her old apartment, her cafe, her mother's hospital. Nothing. Finally, he found her at a bus stop, suitcase beside her, tears streaking down her face. "Aaliyah!" he shouted, stumbling toward her. She looked up, eyes wide. "Why are you here?" "Because I was wrong," he said, voice cracking. "Holbrook framed you. I believed a lie, and I destroyed the only truth I've ever had." She stared at him, trembling. "You hurt me, Ethan." "I know," he said, stepping closer. "And I'll spend every day trying to earn your forgiveness. Not your love, just another chance to prove I'm not the man who said those things." A tear slid down her cheek. "You can't buy that." "I'm not trying to," he whispered. "I'm begging for it." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she reached out, touching his face. "You're freezing." "So are you," he said. She smiled faintly through her tears. "Guess we're both still learning how to be human." He took her hand and kissed it, eyes closed. "Come home," he pleaded. She hesitated, then nodded. On one condition. Anything. No more contracts, she said softly. Just us. He exhaled a shaky breath of relief. Just us. When trust is broken, can love truly heal it, or does it only grow stronger through forgiveness? What would you do if the person who hurt you came back begging for redemption? The next morning, the sun rose over Atlanta like it was afraid to shine too brightly, pale, uncertain, fragile. Aaliyah and Ethan sat in the car outside her mother's hospital. Neither spoke. The sound of machines and morning traffic filled the space between them. I still can't believe you came back, Aaliyah said softly, looking out the window. Ethan gripped the steering wheel. I can't believe I let you go. She turned to him. Ethan, love isn't an apology. It's proof. He nodded slowly. Then I'll prove it. That afternoon, Ethan called for an emergency board meeting at Caldwell Enterprises. The room was filled with suits, whispers, and skepticism. James Holbrook, the man who'd betrayed him, sat confidently at the far end, smirking. Ethan entered with a flash drive and a look of quiet fire. Gentlemen, he began, voice steady. I owe you an explanation, and an apology. He clicked the remote. The screen lit up with data logs, email trails, and security footage. 2 months ago, internal reports were leaked. Everyone, including myself, believed my wife was responsible. But the truth is, he turned to Holbrook. It was you. Gasps filled the room. Holbrook's face went pale. This is ridiculous. Ethan pressed another button. A recording played. James Holbrook, the voice said clearly. We agreed. You leak the files. I'll wire your cut to Zurich. Holbrook lunged for the laptop. You set me up. Ethan stood firm. No, James. You set yourself up when you thought money was worth more than loyalty. Security stepped forward. The board chairman rose. Mr. Holbrook, you're finished here. And just like that, the man who had nearly destroyed them was escorted out. Ethan exhaled, then turned back to the board. I also owe someone else an apology, publicly. That evening, Ethan held a press conference. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted, the world watched. Aaliyah stood behind the curtain, hidden but trembling. Ethan stepped up to the microphone. 6 months ago, I entered into a marriage contract with Miss Aaliyah Thompson, not for love, but for appearance. It was a decision born of pride and fear. The crowd murmured. But what I didn't expect, he continued, voice shaking, was that the woman I thought I was saving from poverty would be the one to save me from myself. He looked straight into the camera. She is my wife in name, yes. But she became my heart in truth. And I hurt her, because I was too blind to see what real love looks like. The flashbulbs went wild. I believed lies. I let doubt poison something pure. But today, I want the world to know, Aaliyah Thompson is not a gold digger. She is the bravest, kindest, most extraordinary woman I've ever met. His voice broke. And if she's watching this, I'm sorry. Not as a businessman, not as a millionaire, but as a man who finally understands that love isn't a contract. It's surrender. The room fell silent. Then a soft gasp rippled through the crowd. Aaliyah stepped onto the stage. Every camera turned. Every whisper stopped. She walked toward him slowly, eyes wet, hands trembling. You could have just called, she said softly. He smiled faintly. Would you have answered? No, she admitted, lips quivering. He laughed through tears. Then I had to do it this way. He reached for her hand, but paused. Do I have the right to hold you again? She looked at him, this man who once hid behind money, now stripped of everything but love. Only if you mean it this time, she whispered. He took her hand gently. Forever. The audience erupted, flashes, applause, tears. But for Aaliyah and Ethan, the world disappeared. There was only them. He pulled her close, forehead resting against hers. No more pretending, he murmured. No more fear, she whispered back. They kissed, slow, certain, real. And the cameras caught it, but for once, Ethan didn't care who watched. Weeks later, the mansion that once felt cold now smelled of coffee and laughter. Aaliyah returned to the kitchen she'd once tiptoed through like a guest. This time, she sang as she cooked. Ethan walked in, sleeves rolled up, carrying a bouquet of lilies. "Peace offering," he said with a grin. "Trying to bribe me again?" "Only for breakfast." She giggled, taking the flowers. "You're learning." He leaned against the counter, watching her move, light, free, happy. "I still can't believe you stayed," he said quietly. They smiled. Then Ethan knelt beside her, holding a small velvet box. Her heart stopped. "Ethan." "This time," he said, voice trembling, "no contracts, no terms. Just love." He opened the box. Inside, a simple gold ring. "Will you marry me, for real?" Tears filled her eyes. "You're crazy," she whispered, laughing. "I know," he said, "but only about you." She dropped to her knees, kissed him and whispered yes. The room filled with the scent of coffee, the sound of laughter, and the warmth of redemption. 3 months later, in a small garden behind the hospital where Aaliyah's mother now recovered, they stood hand in hand before a minister. Her mother smiled from her wheelchair. Jerome filmed with a shaky hand, crying openly. Ethan looked at Aaliyah like she was sunlight. "From the first day I met you," he said, voice steady, "you reminded me that love doesn't care about wealth or pride. It only cares about truth. I promise to never let mine go again." Aaliyah's eyes glistened. "And I promise," she said, "to keep reminding you that peace doesn't come from money, it comes from grace." When they kissed, it wasn't about contracts or status, just two hearts finally home. Would you ever forgive someone who publicly humiliated you if they truly changed? Do you believe love deserves a second chance, even after betrayal? Share your thoughts below. Backhand index pointing down. The camera opens to a soft Atlanta sunrise, the city skyline glowing gold. Birds scatter above the skyline, and the sound of children laughing fills the air. We pan down to a quiet park near Piedmont Lake, where Aaliyah and Ethan sit on a bench, holding hands. A little girl, about 3 years old, runs ahead of them, chasing bubbles. "Careful, Ella." Aaliyah calls out. The child giggles and turns back, waving her tiny bubble wand. "Mommy, Daddy, look." Ethan's smile is pure peace. You'd think she invented bubbles. Aaliyah laughs softly. "She's got your confidence." He raises an eyebrow. "And your stubbornness." Their laughter fades into quiet contentment. The world feels right again. No contracts. No lies. Just love. That evening, the Caldwell Foundation for Women and Education hosts its annual gala, a charity event that once symbolized prestige and power. But tonight, it's different. It's not about luxury anymore. It's about giving back. Ethan and Aaliyah stand side by side on stage as the audience applauds their efforts to provide scholarships for underprivileged women, women like Aaliyah once was. Ethan takes the mic. "A year ago, I thought success was about control. I thought love was a deal. Then I met a woman who taught me that the only real wealth worth chasing is kindness." Applause ripples through the room. He turns to her, smiling. "My wife doesn't like public speaking, but she's the reason this foundation exists. She's the reason I learned what real strength looks like." Aaliyah hesitates, then steps forward. The room quiets. "When I met Ethan," she begins softly, "I thought he was buying my time. But in truth, God was buying me a second chance. Not just at love, but at faith, in myself, in forgiveness, in something bigger." She looks out over the crowd, her voice trembling. "To every woman here who feels unseen, don't let your struggle make you small. Let it make you shine." The audience rises to their feet. Ethan's eyes glisten. "That's my wife," he whispers, pride breaking through every word. Later that night, back home, the lights are dim and soft jazz plays in the background. Ella is asleep in her room, clutching her stuffed bunny. Ethan stands by the window, watching the city lights. "You ever think about how far we've come?" he asks. Aaliyah joins him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Sometimes I still wake up thinking it's all a dream." He kisses her forehead. "If it is, I don't ever want to wake up." They stand in silence, looking out at the stars. "Do you ever regret how it all started?" she asks quietly. He takes a deep breath. "Every day, and not at all." She looks up, confused. "I regret the pain I caused you," he says. "But I don't regret the contract, because it brought me you." Her eyes soften. "You know, That's the first time I've ever heard a millionaire thank a contract. He laughs, pulling her close. It's the only one I ever want to keep. A few weeks later, Aaliyah finds an envelope in Ethan's study. The handwriting is hers. She opens it. It's the same contract she signed 2 years ago. Only now, it's been altered. Across the top, in Ethan's handwriting, it reads, "This contract is hereby void. Replaced by an eternal promise. No signatures required. Just love." Below it, he had written, "You gave me peace when I didn't deserve it. You gave me family when I didn't believe in it. You gave me forever." Tears spill down her cheeks as she reads. She walks outside to find Ethan sitting by the pool with Ella on his lap, telling her a bedtime story. Aaliyah joins them silently, resting her head on his shoulder. He looks at her and smiles. "Found it, huh?" She nods, tears shining. "You kept it all this time." He kisses her temple. "It reminds me of the man I was, and the woman who saved him." A few years later, the camera pans through a cozy home filled with photos of laughter, art, and sunlight. Aaliyah's charity has expanded into several states. Ethan has stepped down as CEO, choosing instead to teach entrepreneurship to inner-city youth. They've built a life not around money, but meaning. We see them at a family barbecue. Jerome joking that he's still single. Aaliyah's mother dancing with Ella. Ethan flipping burgers, pretending to be the grill master. Aaliyah sneaks up behind him, steals a piece of chicken, and laughs when he pretends to chase her. Then, in a quiet moment, she turns to him and whispers, "You know, you never really offered me 20 million. He smirks. "No." She shakes her head. "You offered me something worth a lot more." He pulls her close. "What's that?" She smiles. "A lifetime." He leans down, kisses her, and the world fades out on that image. Two souls who found their forever, not through contracts or promises of wealth, but through forgiveness, growth, and love that refused to give up. Would you take a risk on love if it started as a lie? Do you believe that forgiveness can truly turn pain into peace? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget, subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us all, broken heart, sometimes the richest hearts come from the poorest beginnings. Red Heart.